Michael, Mike, what do you prefer?
Either or.
Just like I'm
Mike.
Andrew, but I'm not an Andy or Drew.
Okay.
I had to correct my neighbor the other day and now things are awkward.
For Michael.
Okay.
We are. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Douglas A. Welton. I'm the chairman of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Commission and I'd like to welcome you to our March 10th work session of the full house, almost except for one person, Planning Commission. We are meeting here in room 267 at the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Government Center. We're at 600 East 4th Street for viewing by the public and the media. Today's meeting is being streamed live on the Planning, Design, and Development Department's YouTube page. As we do with all of our meetings, we'll get started by doing introductions from all of the commissioners, and we will start to my left with Commissioner Millen.
Carolyn Millen, Planning Commissioner.
Shauna Neely, Planning Commission.
Melissa Gaston, Planning Commission.
Andrew Blumenthal, Planning Commission.
Michael Caprilli, Planning Commission.
Rebecca Wilden, Planning Commission.
Rick Winokur, Planning Commission.
Will Russell, Planning Commission.
Aaron Shaw, Planning Commission.
Clayton Seeley, Planning Commission.
Terry Lansdale, Planning Commission.
Robin Stewart, Planning Commission.
Thanks, everyone. We are missing Commissioner McDonald today. She is off, I think, negotiating some tariffs with somebody somewhere. So she'll be back next month, and I'm sure this whole thing will be all squared away. We will now do our staff introductions, and we will begin with our interim director of the Planning, Design, and Development Department.
Yes,
Take
that
it away.
was very good. Monica Holmes, Interim Planning Director.
Candace Rory, Planning Staff.
Al Knight, Planning Staff.
All right. Thanks very much, everyone. First order of business is to take care of our minutes from the previous meeting. Do I hear a motion for the disposition of our minutes from the February 10th, 2025 meeting?
Stewart,
Motion.
motion.
It's going to be a steel cage death match. Come on, one of you.
Motion to approve Wilden. Second, Melissa Gaston.
In the most thrilling of all motions and seconds, that has been properly motioned by Commissioner Wilden and seconded by Commissioner Gaston. All those in favor of this motion, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, then we have done our due stuff with that. Before we get into our new business, and our meeting today is going to be exciting, everybody. We've got lots and lots of microtransit to talk about, and so I'm excited to have all these folks here today, and we will get to them shortly. I am going to give Monica a minute, just if there are some things that are going on in the planning department, and she can just give us a quick update. So take it away.
Well, things are great in the planning department. I wanted to just take a minute to talk about our community area plans, which are scheduled to be released by the end of the month. So they'll be spending a little bit of time at Planning Committee, walking you through a very similar presentation to what was done at our Transportation Planning and Development Council Committee earlier this month, and having a nice engaging conversation with you guys around that. I do recognize that y'all are eagerly awaiting them, and I just want to make sure you know that we've taken a little bit of extra time and care to really make sure that the mobility in the area plans and all the mobility work happening at the city right now is lockstep. And so I'm really excited for the release, but know that there's been extra care and caution over the past few weeks just to make sure that that is perfectly aligned. So when you get them, hopefully you will see that. And we'll be back in April to Planning Commission to do a little bit of a deeper dive. They will be obviously released at that point, and have a little more thorough conversation with the rest of Commission, but eagerly awaiting. I know you guys are excited, so stay ready.
All right. Thanks very much, Monica. And for those people who are on the planning committee, each one of the planning committee members has gotten an assignment, and they will be reading 2 of the 14 plans. There are 7 of us, and so we'll have people who will be kind of experts on those particular areas, and we're excited to see that come before us here. All right, microtransit. We've got lots of fun folks here today. We've got Katz, we've got Dietrich and Bruce. Where are you guys? Thank you. We've got Adam Rue from South Park, and we've got Justin who's going to talk to us from Jump. And we will get started. What do you guys know about microtransit? Let's set the table for these folks. Anybody heavy into microtransit or got a good idea? Who's got the best? Winokur, you look like you've got, Commissioner Winokur,
I very much enjoy microtransit and exploring different options for microtransit. I live within walking distance to the Gold Line and other major bus routes, and enjoy opportunities to combine biking, walking with transit, because
Okay.
transit alone in this city just doesn't cut it.
Okay, cool beans. Commissioner Seeley, you got anything to add?
Yeah, no, I think micro transit is essential to the transit system in Charlotte, considering just how much single family there is here. To have door-to-door kind of transit opportunities, like you see with Jump in particular, and also Jaunt, and then the CATS microtransit programs. So I think it's just something we need to expand and to think as much as possible how we can utilize it best.
Cool beans. I got Commissioner Lansdale, quick comment. And did anybody down this? Okay, and Commissioner Millen, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, it's a great evolution for the term microtransit. It began in one form and is now morphed into a variety of pieces. We've got some great examples of microtransit happening across the state of North Carolina and in our region in Wilson and Gaston County. And we have some great references for how we define microtransit in the future. And CATS has a history of microtransit in their North Lake Village rider as well. That it was a definition of microtransit, I guess, before it was a thing. So,
Okay,
thanks.
cool beans. And Commissioner Millen, we'll let you have the last word.
Real excited about the microtransit, been trying to keep up with it for the last couple of years when I knew it was first being discussed. Really interested because, I'm East Charlotte, so being in East Charlotte, we don't have a whole lot of alternatives to transportation. So looking forward to hopefully getting microtransit to East Charlotte and to other areas of Charlotte that are like us. We don't have a lot of alternatives. So thank you.
Hey, cool beans. Dietrich, Bruce, we will put you on the hot seat first, and we're gonna find out what's up with CATS. And you guys have all the information, so please deliver and make Carolyn happy when you're finished, by the way, okay? And Melissa wants to be happy. You want some north side microtransit. So yeah. Thanks for coming, guys.
No, thank you, for having us. And Terry, good to see you. It's been a while. He used to be on our Transit Service Advisory Commission, so good to see you again. So I'm going to kick it off just to kind of give you a background of how we developed our initial microtransit zones. And then I'll transition it to Dietrich. Dietrich, who'll give you an overview of the CATS microzone in North Meck. So to start, Bruce Jones, Manager of Service Planning with CATS. And so just go through the agenda today, as I mentioned. Excuse me. So I'll start by giving you an overview of the Better Bus Plan and how microtransit sort of developed out of that. We've had many different names for that. Terry knows Envision My Ride, Envision My Ride Bus Priority Study. Now we've settled on Better Bus. Hopefully that's the last title that we have for that, but we feel like that captures fully what we want to achieve with the initiative. And then, as I mentioned, I'll go into the development of the CATS microzones, and then I'll transition it to Dietrich, who'll give you an overview of the zone itself and some of the background information with that. So to start, as I mentioned, so we've been working on a system redesign of our bus network for a number of years. It started as Envision My Ride, initially transferred over to the Envision My Ride Bus Priority Study. And now it's titled the Better Bus Plan. We feel like that captures essentially what we're aiming to achieve with the bus network, I should say. And so with this initiative, we have three overarching goals that we're focused on. So that's improving operational efficiency, developing a service implementation strategy. And so for that second bullet point, with the previous studies, we identified conceptually what we want to do with the bus network. Now in this phase, we're now working on the implementation plan. So what can we achieve in the next 5 years? Of course, pending additional funding, but we're laying out our service strategy for how we can roll out some of the implementation of more frequent bus routes and then also expanding our network. In addition to that, last but certainly not least, looking at how we can enhance the customer experience. And so essentially some of the key aspects of the plan include the bus network update that I mentioned. looking at our Uptown hub with the CTC, and then also some mobility hubs across the network as well. And so that's intended so that we can help facilitate the transfer connections, not only between transit, but also some of the other modes like microtransit, and some of those first last mile connections as well. And then last, but certainly not least, what we're focused on today is the microtransit component. And so how that ties into the vision to help us support that overall goal of improving connectivity for individuals. And so just to kind of give you a definition of microtransit, on our end, we always like to phrase it as a hybrid between a service like Lyft and Uber and transit. And so essentially what that means is that it's an on-demand shared ride service. And so we typically operate what we call point-to-point trips within a designated zone or boundary. Excuse me. And so with that, so individuals are able to, within that zone, request to be picked up either door to door or point to point is what we're calling it. We use smaller transit vehicles for the service. And so one of the key benefits with that is that we're able to meet individuals where they're actually trying to travel to. So as opposed to a traditional fixed route bus that picks individuals up on the main road, with microtransit, we have the ability to pick them up and drop them off closer to their actual destination. One of the other key benefits of it is it provides that same day booking. So it's more convenient. So instead of you focused on a fixed route schedule, you'll be able to book the service when you need the service between that designated window. And so just to give you a little bit of background of how we developed the initial zones. So with the bus priority study and Envision My Ride, we went through what we call the suitability analysis. And so with that, we were working to identify what areas in Charlotte do we have unmet transit need, but what areas does, let's say, a traditional fixed route service not make the most sense, but how can we still provide service for individuals? And so with that, we looked at areas where we had less than 5 people per acre, or also 5 jobs per acre. And so typically that means that there's some level of transit demand, but a traditional fixed route service wouldn't be the best alternative. And so with that, as we identified those zones, excuse me, we also looked at other metrics, including senior population, low-income households, zero-car households, and then also minority populations to identify the additional need for service within those communities. And we also looked at key destinations and how we can better connect individuals to retail opportunities, educational facilities, community centers, and housing. And I will say that the main goal for microtransit was to how can we enhance the bus network by continuing to provide those connections. But another key aspect ties into the 2025 comp plan and how we can better support the 10-minute neighborhoods. So the goal of microtransit was connecting individuals to neighborhood destinations, but then also frequent service lines like our high-frequency bus routes and also the Blue Line. And so with microtransit, we have 3 use cases that we are following. So the first one is actually what we're implementing in the North Mech zone, which Dietrich will give you an overview of. And so that's what we're calling fixed route replacement. And so the intent for fixed route replacement is to implement microtransit in an area where we have a low performing bus route. So in terms of ridership, it's not the greatest for a traditional 40-foot bus, but there's still a level of need in terms of providing transit coverage. And so with that solution, we are looking to deploy microtransit in a number of areas where it will be a fixed route replacement. In addition to that, we have 2 other metrics that we're looking at, including neighborhood service and first last mile connections. And so with the neighborhood service, it's intended to provide access to those key destinations. And so an example is a Steel Creek neighborhood, so providing that connection over to the Rivergate Shopping Center, for example. In addition to that, we have the first last mile connections. And so how that works is essentially providing service so that we fill that gap of where we're dropping customers off and where they actually need to go. And so a key example of that is the Hidden Valley community. So connecting that neighborhood to the frequent service at the Blue Line via the Tom Hunter station and also the Sugar Creek station. And so as I mentioned for the North Mech microzone, we're going with that first strategy of fixed route replacement. And so we launched the service February 24th. So we're just 2 weeks into our launch at this point. And so we are operating the service in parallel with our existing fixed route service. And so we have right now 4 routes, or 4 local routes, I should say, that serve the area. in addition to our express routes. The plan is to eventually phase out the local routes and replace those fully with microtransit. So that would impact routes 97, 98, and 99, and then also the shuttle route, Davidson Shuttle Route 290. And so we're operating that service in parallel with the micro just to give customers an opportunity to get familiar with it, and then eventually transition over to fully operating the on-demand zone and continuing to connect to our express routes and then some of our other major local services such as the North Lake Mall route, Route 7 that connects there. And so as I mentioned, Dietrich will now come up and he'll give you an overview of the zone that we just recently implemented in North Mech.
Thank you, Bruce. Good afternoon. I am Dietrich Brown. I am the program manager paratransit manager for CATS. And as Bruce said, I'll talk a little bit about how we started microtransit, where we are today, and what we'd like to do maybe going forward with microtransit. One of the first things we had to do is, obviously, we had to go through an RFP process. We decided as an organization to do that, not operate the service ourselves. We thought we would contract the service out. And going through that RFP process, we identified two partners, Spare Labs and MV Transportation. And I'll start with Spare Labs here. Spare is important to me because microtransit is heavily reliant upon technology. And Spare provides that bridge of technology for microtransit for us here at CATS. So through the RFP process, we decided that we would partner with Spare Labs. So they have a software that allows customers to basically book their own trips. They're in control of when and where they want to go within the zone. So Spare is a critical piece to what we're doing here with microtransit at CATS. Many of you are familiar with CATS Pass, the app. I hope you are anyway. Through that app, we've also provided some integration from the app to the Spare software. So customers who don't have access to Spare, because that's a software package, will be able to book their trips through the CATS Pass app. So just like you would if you've been using it before to find a bus, a suitable bus, or see Terry has it planning your trips with the CATS Pass app, microtransit has now been incorporated into CATS Pass app. And so Spare is the catalyst, if you will, for technology. It's the catalyst, the integration with CATS Pass. And then there's MV Transportation. This outfit and both outfits have a reputation throughout the company for working with transit agencies and microtransit. MV's been around for years, providing service in many jurisdictions in the country. And because of the reputation and the history that both companies have with working with transit agencies and microtransit, through the RFP process, MV and Spare won out. And MV, with this relationship that we have with MV, is a turnkey operation, meaning they provide the vehicles, the operators, the dispatchers, they have their own call center, and they provide supervision over what happens with microtransit on the daily operations of what happens with microtransit. Obviously, CATS being partners with these two vendors, we are monitoring at a little bit higher level as to how successful and what are the things that are happening with the service from this vantage point. So those are our two partners. So some of the next things we did was we felt like we needed to create a brand for microtransit here at CATS. And you see in the middle there, that logo that says MicroCats. We wanted something that would, attract, obviously, our customers, but also remain synonymous with CATS. And so this logo that we've selected, we believe we've done that. And that it's a logo that will be recognized by those persons in the zone and outside of the zone. And CATS will also, people will also understand that CATS is the driving force behind the service. Then we took some time to develop writer's guides, fact sheets, FAQs. We've updated our websites. And then I think one of the final pieces with branding came about when we decided on what the vehicle should look like. And so you see in this picture, this description of what we have out there in terms of vehicles. They are Toyota Siennas, and this is what they look like. This wrap is how we've outfitted the Siennas. So they're very noticeable, and our brand is very noticeable. So you heard Bruce talk a little bit about the zone and it being a North Mech zone. That zone extends, I guess, when you think about the zone, south of the zone from North Lake Mall area all the way up to downtown Davidson. So we have a pretty maybe irregular shaped zone, but it covers a lot of miles and a lot of area. But we thought with this zone, we needed to provide coverage for the towns of Huntersville, Cornelius, and Davidson. And so within the zone, there are some points of interest. You heard Bruce talk about points of interest, places that people may want to go within this zone. You got Burkdale Village, North Cross Shopping Center, and of course, North Lake Mall. An important aspect of what we have in the zone are what we call transfer points. You heard Bruce talking about our bus network in North Mech. We have express bus service, and we have Village Rider service, fixed route service. And these points are important as we coexist with the bus network, as microtransit coexists with the bus network. It allows customers to access these other bus services within the zone if they are using microtransit. So customers can book a microtransit trip and use microtransit exclusively, or they have the opportunity to book a micro trip to connect to a bus that might bring them into Uptown Charlotte through these transfer points. So one of the things with the zone is we wanted to make sure that these points of interest are recognized by the customers. When you think about fares and using microtransit, here at CATS, we decided to make our fare structure for micro mirror what we have on local bus service, $2.20 per ride, one way. And so we wanted to, maintain those aspects because we are right now kind of mirroring what the Village Rider does in terms of a service area. We know that when that service goes away, those customers are going to be impacted, and we didn't want to impact them with a higher cost by taking something away and coming up with a higher cost. So the fare remains what our local bus fare is, and that's $2.20. So I'm going to pause right there for a moment and think about this. Your Uber ride or your Lyft ride and the CATS ride for $2.20. I'll just leave that out there. So I believe this is a great opportunity for customers to really take advantage of getting around in this particular zone. Now, keep in mind, you heard Bruce talking about the zone. This zone, customers have to, for microtransit, those trips have to be made within the zone, from one point to another within the zone. So that's one of the differences from those other TNCs. Well, before I go to service hours, another important aspect that we had to navigate was not allowing cash to be passed in CATS Micro, on a micro vehicle. And we arrived at that after some debate as to whether we should do that, and safety kind of won out, if you will, for us deciding not to accept cash in these minivans. So having cash on board and various people jumping in and out of the vehicles, we thought, let's look at other ways to have people provide payment or passes to CATS. They're free transfers, so if you have a CATS transfer or you have a CATS pass, you can use micro with those existing passes and transfer to other modes of services. Obviously, with the fare being $2.20 and express and regional express fare being somewhat a little bit more than the $2.20, there is a difference that has to be paid if you're using micro and you decide to take an express bus or a regional express to finish your commute. So there's a little bit of an upcharge there. The service hours for our service or Monday through Friday. We operate 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. each day. And then on weekends, the service hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We thought that it would be great or a good idea to provide you with some tips to ensure that you have a smooth ride when you're using Micro. I'm not going to go through all of these. You all see them there, but I'll just touch on a few of them. One of the big things is to have your fare ready. If you're using Cats Pass app, obviously your fare is located in your wallet. You simply present that to a driver. He or she will scan that, and you're on your way. We are also, as I just mentioned, allowing the use of physical passes or paper passes that currently exist with many of our customers. You can present that physical or paper pass to an operator, to a driver, and he or she will also scan that, and you will be allowed to board the vehicle to take your trip. Some other things, are the vehicles accessible? They are. So we have in mind for persons who have disabilities. So if you need a vehicle that's wheelchair equipped, or you're bringing a service animal along, through the app, you can make those designations through the app. And if you're calling through our call center, you'll also be able to alert us that you need an accessible vehicle. If you want to cancel your trip, once the trip's been confirmed, you cannot change the pickup, the time, and things like that. However, to modify that trip, you would need to cancel that trip and rebook the trip that you need. If you made a mistake in booking, put the wrong time, or your destination has changed, you would simply cancel the first trip and rebook it immediately again after. Our next slide, we want to take a few minutes to maybe, I think I saw Terry with the app to show those of you, if you don't have the app now, hopefully you will download the app after this today, and wanted to kind of walk you through the steps for booking trips via the Cats Pass app. So when you open up your Cats Pass app, the first thing you will see is a screen that looks like what you see there under number 1. And down at the very bottom, there is a plan icon right beside the home button. You click plan, and your next step would be to input your address for pickup and your destination. Once you put those addresses in, you're going to be provided with options. You may get a micro option. You may get today a Village Rider option or an express bus option. And as the customer, you have control of how you want to, what service you would like to use. And so in this case, you see micro at the top. If you wanted to use them, take a micro trip, you would simply click that micro trip, and then you would click start booking. What you'll see next is an opportunity for you to tell us how many passengers are going to be riding with you on the trip. And you simply use your plus and minus signs to add an adult, or to let us know that you have a child coming along with you. From there, you will confirm that these are the things that I need, but maybe I have a disability and I also need a wheelchair, or I'm bringing a service animal with me. Under the accessories tag, you would notify us that I have a service animal with me. And again, using the plus and minus sign, tell us, how many animals you have, or if you need a walker or a wheelchair. From there, you confirm that trip. And then the next thing you'll see is another screen, step 5, where you will verify that your trip is accurate, and that you're going where you want to go, the time you want to go, and the people that are going, the things that you need to make that trip happen are there. We also have an option for you to pay with you can let us know that you're going to pay with a paper pass, a physical pass, because maybe you bought passes online or you went to the transit center and purchased, and you have those right now and you want to use them. We give you that option, that we do not make those obsolete. Even if you're booking with Cats Pass. And then once you request that ride, you can either pay for it through what's stored in your wallet on the Cats Pass app, or like I just said, present a physical pass when the driver meets you at your location. But when you hit request ride, when you press request ride, you will be able to follow in real time you'll be able to see the progress that your driver is making in his or her path towards you. So just wanted to kind of share that with you that so whenever you download the app today, and I'm sure many of you will, if you haven't already, you'll see these steps to be able to book a trip on Micro if you're up in the North Meg area. So not everybody has a smartphone, right? So we've also made available for persons who don't have that, they'll be able to contact the call center and basically give some basic information like your name, your telephone number, where you want to go, if you need accessories, like a wheelchair accessible vehicle, whatever it is you need, that call taker or that reservationist will be able to assist you in booking the ride via the phone. A little bit different from the application on our cell phones. Some of our pre-launch activities, really, I think we started probably late January with some engagements into February prior to launch. During that time, we had about 5 informational meetings, 4 community pop-up and at activity centers, and we conducted 2 stakeholder meetings. In all, we feel like we engaged roughly 187 persons during that time. But we knew that it was important with us bringing a totally new service to CATS that we get out in front of it to present that to the public in the North Meg area. Today, you heard Bruce, and I've also mentioned that February 24th, we launched our service. And we have a few data points we are able to share with you very early on here in the first 2 weeks. Our average wait time is about 13 minutes. So we're getting there on time to our customers. The average trip length, you can see, is about 4 miles. Customers are using us that way. And then almost 80% of our customers are booking via the CATS Pass app, meaning they're using their cell phones to book the trip. And in total, we've had in the first 2 weeks about 460 trips performed. Well, yeah. Pardon me? You get an A for the day. Well, thank you. We'll take an A. We'll take an A. Some of the top destinations in the North Meg area that people are using Micro to go are the Huntersville Gateway Park and Ride, the Cornelius Park and Ride, North Lake Mall. And then one that kind of stood out to me was the Huntersville Fitness and Aquatics Center. People are using Micro to go to that location as well. So a lot of activity in the southern part of the zone. Not really sure what's driving that right now, but we'll continue to look at our data to be able to answer some of those kinds of questions when they arise later on. So a little bit about where we go from here, like going forward. We are going to continue to educate and engage our existing customers. With the Village Rider, we still have customers who are utilizing the Village Rider, and as you heard Bruce indicate that we're going to phase it out. But we need to engage those persons who are using that service to find out, why they're maybe still using it if they haven't tried microtransit. So we're going to spend some time in the immediate future trying to understand the bus rider and his or her ability to migrate over to microtransit, because we'd like to see that 460 double or quadruple in the next week or two. So we'll be spending some time with the Village Rider customers and riders who are currently riding now. Obviously, we will continue to monitor our service to identify trends. It's very early right now, so we don't have a lot of data that we can share with you in that regard, but we'll be looking at it. And then we are going to take what we have as we're gathering it. And I don't know if either of us have said, this zone is considered a pilot zone. So we are learning here learning about microtransit with this zone. And so largely what we learn with the zone in North Meg, it will help drive us as to how we move about in creating additional zones in the CATS bus system or transit system. So The future, I believe, is bright with regards to micro. We know once this is out there, others will be interested in it. We hope that they will. So being able to have identify those strategies for future growth and future zones will be very, very important. Thank you for allowing us to present CATS Micro to you today. I imagine that there may be some questions. Bruce and I are here to field those if you have them.
Thanks very much, teacher. Oh, we got hands. There's been somebody who's had some questions. She's furiously writing to my left here, and we are going to begin with Commissioner Gaston if you have some questions.
Commissioner Gaston, thank you so much for your presentation. Very interested in this program. And I, of course, have questions. Can we go back to a slide where you talked about initially like the Better Bus Plan, and you talked about what your selection criteria was for the area that you chose?
Better Bus.
Slide.
Go back. Right there. So your demographic profile. So in order to select this area that you did, this Huntersville corridor, you did seniors, low-income households, car households, and minorities. That's what you used to make the selection for this particular zone, or is that what you're looking at?
That's what we look to identify the zones holistically. So all of the zones that we have roughly about, I think, 19 zones that we identified. So the overall network of zones, that's what we use to select. In terms of prioritizing North MEC first, the main driver for that was the current performance of the Village Rider service. And so as I mentioned with that strategy to fix route replacement, this here. So essentially getting rid of an underperforming bus route, but still finding a solution so that we can meet the need for areas, if that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying. I don't necessarily know that it makes sense, but I understand what you're saying. So it wasn't the criteria that you listed. It wasn't, you were basically trying to get rid of the Village Rider because it's not an effective program any longer.
Correct.
Is that correct?
So, yes.
Because I wanted to know, you said you looked at 19 areas, and I would find it hard to believe that that Huntersville area is the one that fit those demographics profile that you were looking at. And I'm on my soapbox and I'm here. And the reason I'm saying that because heavily involved in the north end, which is that Statesville, North Graham, Tryon Street area. And I know that a lot of the residents who live in that area fit that demographic profile. And I believe that, and what I had heard in a rumor was that this was going to start in that area. And then next thing I heard that it was going to the Huntersville area. So I get, because you were trying to get rid of the Village Rider, but I just have I take umbrage with the fact that that's what you're saying, you're picking, because I know residents who I've talked to who say, I'm getting on the bus to go to the grocery store. And I have said, call me, because they're talking about it takes them 45 minutes to go to the grocery store. And the grocery store is 2 miles max from their house, but it takes them 45 minutes. This would have been something that would have been beneficial. The profile of the residents who live there, the seniors, the low income, the number of people who are heavily dependent upon CATS to get to work, to school, to wherever, minority. And you picked an area that, in my opinion, you know, has a propensity of people who have access to cars, the income to order to make that transition.
Yeah, and I guess just to feed off of that, so yes, we had about 19 zones that we were looking to roll out. Of course, funding is the biggest piece of that. And so to give you perspective, one of the other drivers for selecting North MEC is because when we do that fixed route replacement, that allows us to then reinvest those service hours that we have on the bus side into other areas of the network. And so it's hard to see on this map, but those lines in red indicate some of our future high frequency bus routes where we'll have service at 15 minutes or better. And so one of the strategies that we're looking at is when we phase out the Village Rider service hours, how can we then reinvest that into other areas of the network where there's a greater need in terms of improving bus frequency? So that's one of the things that we're looking at. Do hear your comment for sure. I think one of the challenges that we face is that we need additional funding to activate all of the zones. And so we're going to be in a situation where we don't unfortunately make everyone happy,
Mhm.
but definitely do receive your comment. So appreciate that.
Okay, I'll circle back.
You
I'll
good?
let you- yep, go.
Okay. I'm gonna go Commissioner Stewart, Commissioner Lansdale, Commissioner Seeley. All right? Go ahead, brother.
Thanks for the presentation. Super interesting. I think I got part of my question sort of answered, but I was curious about the economics, sort of overall, like what's the overall plan? Is this meant to be sort of budget neutral to CATS? So taking away and adding, or is this going to be incremental funding required?
It'll be incremental. So we'll need additional funding to roll out all of those services. And so, as I mentioned, the goal for this is to do fixed route replacement. So we're trying to be more strategic in how we invest into our bus network. And so one of the things that we're looking at is where we have underperforming bus routes currently. And so that's been one of the drivers. How can we be smarter and more strategic about providing service, but then utilizing our bus service hours in areas of the network where there's greater need? I think as we roll out additional zones, there's of course going to be an additional cost component to that. And so pending success with the referendum, we have a program now where we'll activate the full zones or all the zones that you see here, plus the changes within the bus network within the next 5 to 10 years. So it's going to be incremental. There is additional funding that will be tied to that. But in some areas, we are able to be more strategic in where we invest into bus service versus microtransit service.
Commissioner Lansdale.
Bruce, great to see you.
Good to see you too.
Appreciate your growth. Awesome job. I think you're about 10 years in now, right?
7.
7 years. Okay.
It's going to be here quick. Yeah,
Dietrich,
it does. Yeah.
Dietrich, wow, what a big job you have for paratransit. They've been in your office before. Know what you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I just want to thank you all for your service in recovering from the transitions of our leadership over the past decade. It's been a real challenge for us as a community to embrace CATS at every level based upon some of the things that have happened in our past. And we appreciate this movement so quickly over the past several years to make this opportunity available to folks. I'd like to commend CATS as well. While I'm going to be a little bit in opposition or counter my peer across the aisle, but we appreciate CAT's effort to serve the extraterritorial jurisdiction in this way. We see bus service and transit service in our ETJ areas oftentimes neglected. We know that corridor is a specific corridor that we need to continue to develop, especially in the interim between now and the red line. We appreciate that. I do have a couple of specific questions now that I've kind of made put my flag in the sand and wanted to kind of thank you for your service. But when we look at the Lakeview Road barrier, we do not see this pilot project touch Beatties Ford Road. Is that true or not true?
That's true, yes. So for another, I guess this map here is probably a better picture. I believe it might touch a sliver of Beatties Ford, but not the heart of Beatties Ford. It gets close. What we were trying to achieve with the zone here, you're familiar with the Village Rider service, but we have what we call a deviation zone where we deviate 3/4 of a mile off of the route. And so customers can, by request and approval from our operations team, request to be picked up at specific locations that's not on the fixed route. It's not as flexible with that service because you are limited to roads that can support a traditional 30-foot or 40-foot bus. But microtransit gives us greater flexibility. But where I'm going with that is we try to match that deviation zone with the Village Rider. And so that's why it extends a little bit further south to North Lake, Lakeview. And that explains sort of that overall shape of the zone because it's very vertical in nature. And typically successful microtransit zones are a little bit more square. This one has a very odd shape. But essentially that was the goal so that we can capture that deviation zone with the Village Rider service. So that's why it has that.
I appreciate that replacement of the Village Rider service because when we work in a revenue neutral budget, we have to give something up to get something. And I think this is that kind of opportunity that we can look at this microtransit. And I want to be clear, I think this is the second pilot for microtransit. Isn't that correct?
You might be referring, we did a first last mile pilot with Lyft, maybe 2018
Yep.
timeframe.
So we've got some history. We're developing this. We appreciate that. The last thing I'll say is a request for two more quick things. When we have a report analysis to the federal government for on-time performance, I think you had a loose word in there about hopefully 20 minutes or approximately 20 minutes for response time. Will that affect our performance measures in evaluating the success of microtransit?
So we said 30 minutes within that window. I think you might be referring to this slide.
Intended to be, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so right now we're using that metric. As you can see with the average, we're well below that. We're under 15 minutes currently. I think that just gives us a little bit of flexibility. We're still pretty early in the service. And so given the shape of the zone, we could run into some situations where, let's say we have excessive demand and then you factor in traffic. The wait time could be a little bit closer to that 30-minute walk, or sorry, 30-minute window, I should say, but we wanted to give ourselves a little bit of flexibility. So we're saying as long as we stay within that threshold, we would be able to meet the on-time performance goal.
Last quick one, wheelchairs, scooters are acceptable for add-ons, but we'd love to be able to see bicycles on there as well.
Yes, that's definitely something that we've heard and we'll be considering that too. And I will say too, for future zones, as we start to implement or roll this out throughout the network, we are working to identify what that looks like. And so we have some different scenarios or thoughts about additional zones that we can activate. But we're going to take a lot of information from this sort of as lessons learned and come back and maybe revisit those zones, refine the zones, the boundaries, because we want to set them up so that they're successful, but then also make sure that they're set up so that they can be the best service for individuals that need it. So we're still working towards what the future looks like. But at least with this one, we're going to take this, as Dietrich mentioned, as a pilot phase. And then if we come back and find that we need to revise this zone, because right now, like I mentioned, it's very vertical. It doesn't connect to a lot of areas to the east and west in Huntersville. And so that's been some of the feedback that we've received. I think as we continue to evaluate that, that could be some of the recommendations that we come back to the table with, maybe refining the boundary on that.
You good, Terry? All right, Commissioner Seeley. Microphone.
460 people rode the microtransit. How many people rode the aforementioned 4 lines that will be sunset over that same period? Do you have that data by any chance?
I don't have it offhand, but to give you perspective, we average typically about 5 to 6 passengers per hour.
Okay.
The Village Rider service. With the micro service, we're averaging about 3, so it's comparable. And stresses too that we have, of course, a 40-foot bus that's carrying 5 people per hour versus when we can be more efficient with the micro service to provide that connection. But we can, I don't know the best way, if you want me to email you afterwards, I can give you that data.
If you guys have some more information, you can send it directly to Candace and she'll, or Al, they will pass it along to us.
Yeah, for sure. We
Good
can
on
get
that?
that over to
Yeah,
you.
okay.
Yeah, and my next question is there a maximum amount of trips that you guys can cover based on, per day, based on the amount of rolling stock that you guys have and also staffing to have those vehicles?
We have 7 vehicles. I don't know that we have a maximum. Of course, there might be a period where all 7 of those vehicles are in use. It does, of course, with the shared ride feature, have the ability to, what's our capacity? Is it 5 individuals at a time? So that gives us a little bit more flexibility with that. I don't know that we have a max, though, that we would be completely maxed out. In that case, though, it would essentially provide the customer, if they're trying to book during a period where we're maxed out, they'll just get a message. We're currently experiencing high levels of demand. Check back in a few minutes to try to book your trip again. So you might get that message, but I think that would only happen in extreme cases where we're like, let's say
Christmas is coming.
Christmas. I think someone used an example before of Taylor Swift or Beyonce doing a concert in Huntersville.
Who is this Taylor Swift you speak of?
Just a hypothetical, if there is any type of situation like that where we would see a high level of demand, you could run into scenarios like that. But I don't think that, I feel like that has to be a pretty high number, but we can maybe investigate that and get back to you on that.
Okay, and then can we go back to the one of the maps that has the coverage areas for microtransit?
Yes,
There's been several, obviously.
this one here.
No, so I mean like the focus areas across the city.
Was it this or this?
That one or this one works. Okay, so what would be kind of the timeline for implementing these areas?
Yeah, so it's dependent upon additional funding, which we're going through the effort now. Actually, this month, we have a meeting kicking off. I think it's now, actually.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
so we
is.
have
It
a
is now.
system plan, yeah, meeting that you can stream on our YouTube, but we're actually holding public engagement sessions as well. But we have a couple of scenarios that we're working through for the full system plan, which includes the Better Bus Plan as well. And so then we'll present those recommendations back to the public, I think around the May timeframe before we get it adopted by our board. It all depends, though, on the referendum and being successful with getting that on the ballot and, of course, passed. If we were to get that accomplished within the first 5 to 10 years, we've outlined all improvements that you see here on the map with our bus network. So typically within that threshold or period is what we're looking at.
So one of the other reasons I ask here is, you know, if I thought there were a community in need in particular that is not included in this focus area, a few months back, we had someone come in from the Belmont neighborhood, talking about, you know, how much need they have, what their share of as far as affordable housing units are, as the city goes, what their share of commercial properties. It was like 1% commercial properties. And then their lack of a bus route. Obviously, I believe the 27 goes through there, but it is very limited. So looking at, you know, the bus service area on GIS, it seems like one of the biggest areas of needs is that Belmont, Plaza Hills, Country Club Heights kind of area. There's a huge block of land right over there that is the densest zip code in Charlotte. And it feels like that would be a great area for micro transit.
Yeah, and so we have a couple of plans for that area too. We do have some frequent routes. So the 27 covers that portion on 7th and Monroe. We also have Route 4, which goes up Siegel and a portion of the neighborhood as well. The plan with both of those routes is to improve service. On the 27, it'll be 15 minutes, and then the 4, it would be 30 minutes. But yeah, that's definitely a comment that we are looking for during this period so that we can maybe revisit and focus on areas that might need additional service. I don't know that microtransit would be the best for the area, just given the street network. It might be more supportive for fixed route. Microtransit, you also have to take into consideration the level of demand. And so if we see that passengers per hour are exceeding, let's say 15 passengers per hour, microtransit might not be the best case in that example because we can't support that through those smaller vehicles. And so that's when it makes sense to upgrade it to traditional fixed route. So in more dense environments like that, fixed route service might be more appropriate, but frequent fixed route service. So definitely a consideration and comment that we want during this period. So appreciate you for sharing that.
Thank you. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Our final question goes to this Commissioner Neely person over here.
Thanks. Just a simple question. I didn't see a lot of concentration on the website regarding electric vehicles. Are those Toyota Sienna electric or?
They are hybrid.
They are hybrid.
Largely, I think mostly almost a total electric vehicle, but it does have a combustible component in the engine, but it's a hybrid vehicle right now. Thank you for asking.
Bruce Dietrich, thank you very much for coming to our party. If anybody else has any questions, you guys can be able to hang around for a minute, or you got to go do something.
I have to jump, but
Okay,
Dietrich
that's fine.
feel free to send me if there's anything else I can answer.
That jump thing didn't mean that Justin said answer. But Anyway, thanks very much for getting us up to speed on what CATS is doing, and look forward to hearing more from you guys in the future. We're going to keep on rolling down the line now, and next up is Adam Rue, who has come to talk to us before about things that are going on at South Park. And welcome, Adam. Glad to have you back. And
Thank you.
tell us what's going on out there in the land of plenty.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Adam Rue, President and CEO of South Park Community Partners. Pleasure to be back with you. Almost exactly a year since the last time I was here, and really excited to share some of the progress we've made in South Park. If you'll remember, the last time I was here, we were talking about the forthcoming South Park Forward 2035 Vision Plan, which we published last April. And so pleased to share that in the time since I've been here, we finalized the study, published the plan, and have implemented one of the key recommendations, which is this microtransit program I'm going to share with you today. Quickly, as a reminder, South Park Community Partners is an economic development nonprofit. We manage the South Park Municipal Service District through a partnership with the city. The South Park Skipper program is a microtransit program born directly from consistent demand across stakeholder groups. When we did the community engagement for the vision plan, we heard overwhelmingly across all user groups, across all demographic groups, this desire for some sort of neighborhood shuttle service. And people use different words to describe it, but the spirit of what they were asking for was something that is a complement to transit, that serves first and last mile mobility needs and facilitates a Park Once environment in South Park. And so that's what we attempted to build, was a program in response to that demand. We did extensive research over the last year, and we ultimately selected and partnered with Freebie, which is a microtransit operator that has experience in 50 East Coast communities to deploy this program. It started November 15th of last year, just in time for that all-important holiday shopping season in South Park. And one thing I want to mention is the partnership we've enjoyed with CATS and CDOT in the development of this program, and then sort of the analysis of the data as we've gotten it off the ground. At launch, we installed, thanks to a really great partnership with CDOT and CATS, we installed signage at all of the bus stops throughout the South Park MSD, cross-promoting the Skipper service. And we also worked with CATS to cross-promote CATS service on our app and Skipper service on theirs, really trying to leverage people who are taking the bus into particularly the transit center underneath South Park Mall, and trying to get those folks from that stop, from that hub, to their final destination, and vice versa. So quickly, here's a overview of the program. And I'm not going to read this to you, but I do want to highlight a couple of quick things. One, the service is fare-free, so it is free to use inside the South Park Municipal Service District. That was really important to us and part of our commitment to increasing accessibility and a sense of belonging in South Park. We are also, like our friends at CATS, viewing this as a pilot. So we want to learn from the first year of operations. And one of the ways we're doing that is making some back-end tweaks to the program and some front-end tweaks. For example, we started running this service 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. We expanded that by an hour in March and April. So we're going to start service at 8 a.m. to see how those corporate workers in particular, and people who are in South Park for business meetings or to get to work, may try to leverage that service early in the day. Similarly, when the PGA Championship is in town in May, we're going to extend service in the evenings to be able to test and see how that audience uses the service. So we want this program to be nimble in its first year so that we can maximize the opportunity to learn from our users. It is app-based, and like CATS, we also have a call center, a bilingual call center that's available for people if they would like to book their ride by picking up the phone rather than using the app. And we also have accessibility options where you can ask for our wheelchair accessible vehicle or note other needs that you may have as you're booking that ride. Again, the service area is just the South Park Municipal Service District. That's the 1 square mile district that we are missioned to manage. And then quickly, here are just some numbers. So again, we launched this service November the 15th. We served 11,520 passengers between that date and the end of February. And our target wait time when we launched the program was 10 minutes or less. We're currently running about just over 8 minutes. So really pleased with that ability to provide consistent, reliable service to our customers. Just a quick look maybe at some of the ridership trends. This frankly was a surprise to us. Really even splits among user groups, 21 to 34, 35 to 50, and 51 up, all roughly, plus or minus a third. So I will tell you when we got into this that there was a healthy amount of discussion among our board about what the young people would do with the service. And we thought we might over-index to younger people who, as you can imagine, find themselves at South Park Mall frequently. And we were really pleased at the age diversity of our riders. Couple of quick thoughts maybe on trends that we're seeing. So the left is a heat map overlaid across the MSD, and you see kind of concentrations of where trips are starting or ending. And I'll just maybe give you some of the insights that we've learned over the course of the last 3.5 months of operating this program. Fridays and Saturdays, unsurprisingly, are our busiest days of the week. Our peak times tend to increase as the day goes on. 2 to 8 p.m. is sort of our consistently most popular window, but there are days where we see, if it's raining, we see a huge bump at lunchtime as people decide to take the skipper to get to lunch, for example, depending on the weather. So there's some variability there. By business or by location, if you look at sort of the individual pickup drop-off spot, Harris Teeter is our most popular destination. So really pleased with seeing people use this as a utility. It's not simply a fun, cute amenity, but it's something that people are using to create value in their daily life. Shopping centers are obviously highly frequented. A lot of our mixed use centers come up very frequently, and it's hard for us unless the rider, specifies, I want to go to this apartment complex within this center. It's hard for us to parse out, why they are riding from that data. So if you're going to Piedmont Town Center, for example, it's hard for us to know whether you're going to Duckworth's to go eat, or whether you're going to the condos that are upstairs, or whether you're going to one of the office buildings that's right across the traffic circle. So there's a little bit of learning we continue to want to do about what people are doing when they get in or out of the vehicles at the mixed use centers. But I will tell you that apartments comprise 18% of our stops, hotels are 10%, grocery stores represent 10% of total trips when you look across all of our trips. And the average distance is about 0.8 of a mile. So really seeing people use it to get across. If you think about South Park as a 1 square mile district, it's people trying to get across Sharon and Fairview and bridge the gaps over those roads, which are perceived by people to be hard to cross, unsafe, unforgiving as a pedestrian or as a cyclist. We continue to kind of get into the data as we go along, and one of the things that we've started to do is add some survey questions in, so that as people go in to book a trip, we're trying to understand their behavior. For example, why are you taking this trip? Did this trip replace an existing trip? Start to learn from some of the things that riders are telling us about why they're in the vehicle. So we're going to continue to kind of parse that data. We just started that at the beginning of March. And so I have a couple of numbers that are truly hot off the press from last week. So this was last week. 22% of our riders last week said they were taking the trip to or from work. 45% said they were taking it to or from shopping and dining. And 8% said they were staying at a hotel for personal reasons. 4% were staying at a hotel for business travel, and then 20% of people selected some other reason, grocery store, medical. We've been really interested in the number of people that are using the Skipper to get either to or from medical office buildings. We have a freestanding emergency room, the Atrium facility in South Park, and we've seen several trips there, which I think for us starts to signal an underlying trust that the consumer has to be able to take you to the front door of urgent care or the emergency room. So we're continuing to watch those numbers. They're small, but they're meaningful to us about what they signify our riders are doing. One last thought, and then happy to answer your question. We are really excited about a partnership that we have with CATS, CDOT, CRTPO, and Centralina to analyze the data. So we've turned over the raw user data for the first 90 days of this program to a group of experts that are parsing it, and we're meeting on a monthly basis. Dietrich's part of that group. It's been fun to collaborate across our two programs as we've gone on similar journeys to get them off the ground. That group is going to continue to meet, and we're going to learn from this program and hopefully be able to share those insights with our partners at CATS and with other organizations that are looking at similar programs. Part of the reason for this program, besides the obvious, serving consumer demand, is that we want South Park to be a laboratory for mobility innovation, and we want this program and the data underneath it to be a tool that the rest of our community can use as we think about getting creative with mobility solutions and mobility innovation across our community. So with that, I'm happy to answer your questions, and thanks for the opportunity to share a little bit about the program.
Thanks for coming, Adam. That was a really good presentation. I loved your heat map.
Thank you.
Because I'm just picking out restaurants and places on there, and it's like, yeah, the Harris Teeter was a big red dot. And you're right, the emergency room was a red dot too. And I was like, when I realized what that was, I was surprised. We got questions from anybody? How are we doing? We got Commissioner Russell and then Commissioner Lansdale.
Adam, thank you. Very informative presentation. This is more so a comment than a question. I think well, let me back up and say, anybody that's talked to me for any length of time will know that my favorite word is connection. Like, things need to connect to each other from land use and from transportation. And when we don't do that, they don't work. I think it's very poignant that you said that the trips that are being requested are less than what, like 0.8 of a mile. And they are really doing what? Going across the busiest streets in Charlotte. So that means that there's an obvious disconnect between South Park Mall and what's across the street, or the residents and what are across the street. And I'm sure Terry's gonna break out in hives when I say this, but those roads are too big. They're too big to accommodate the pedestrian scale area that we're looking for. You're talking about a mile square, and people are riding in a car a mile square. So that speaks to the lack of connection that is in that area, and kind of the lack of how transportation and land use work together in that area. But otherwise, I think you've done a phenomenal job.
Commissioner, I appreciate it. And I would just say in response, we agree that the challenges in walking and biking in South Park, and particularly in the business core, exist. And we've got work to do. And the vision plan obviously talks a lot about walkability and bikeability. I think our aspiration is that this program is part of the puzzle. But we know that, there's real work that as a community we have to do. And I think our hope is that in the short term, we're helping people more fully connect the neighborhood. But this tool, to your point, doesn't solve some of our larger land use challenges in South Park. Thank you.
Commissioner Lansdale.
Thanks for your work, and really, you guys have hit the ground running.
Thank you.
Since the MSD was formed. I'll come back to that MSD piece in just a second. I really like the heat map and the show that you give us when we talk about usage. For me, I like to look at the edges of the heat map. I think access and maybe an advertising feature for folks that live in Sharon Towers, for example, if they can walk or ambulate to the Hilton, they've got a free ride anywhere, whenever in South Park. So I love that kind of, if you get close enough, it gets you anywhere within. And I love that kind of concept. A couple things about the app. We can't book anything in this freebie ride app if you're not geolocated in the map at that time. So the thing I just said about having the Sharon Towers, we have this kind of maybe disconnect when we have an ability to plan a trip better. Maybe there's something we can do to loosen that, to give people a broader opportunity. And the last thing I'll say is a little bit more pointed. I've tried to give you positive things here, but your initial statement was you've been working with CRTPO and the city as part of a new MSD, the Municipal Service District, but you also have some state requirements. And part of the state requirements are to use the revenue to increase pedestrian safety. So we appreciate this work and prioritizing this kind of bright, shiny object feature that is really having a real impact. But we also, when we look at your long-range plan, I certainly will be looking very closely at seeing how you allocate dollars directly for those facility improvements to make it able for people who not to have to call a car to cross the street. And I think there's going to be great opportunities moving forward at some of these critical intersections in the South Park area to improve that safety based upon the state requirements for municipal service district designation.
Commissioner, appreciate the comments. I'll touch on your last point, but I also want to briefly speak to the longer term vision for this program. Fully appreciate the need to better connect South Park through pedestrian improvements. We can walk and chew gum at the same time, to be frank. And so our work on the Skipper is complementary to work that is ongoing on a parallel path with our partners at the city on pedestrian improvements in South Park. And so that is a focus. Ultimately, we do not have authority to manage the public right of way. And so that's got to be a collaboration between our organization and our friends at CDOT. And those conversations are ongoing. And so we've got a few places where we've identified the need for improvements, and we've got to figure out how we work together to advance those. But appreciate the spirit of your comments, because we agree that our dollars should speak to that need as well. I do want to quickly talk about the future, and I was glad to hear you mention Sharon Towers, because that, I think, is a good case study for what we hope this program will do. So we started this Skipper program within the 1 square mile municipal service district. That's the area where we are statutorily required to focus our efforts, to your point. But I think our hope is that this program can grow and scale beyond our borders, and can start to serve more people, perhaps have a connection from the district to the Blue Line, or begin to serve stakeholders that are further out and start to be an element of a TDM strategy that serves people in South Charlotte. We felt like it was really important to do year one, prove the concept, show people would use it, and that we knew how to operate it before we bit off more than we could chew. But I think what we're hoping is that the data and the insights that we're garnering from year one can help us figure out how the program scales geographically to serve more people. And hopefully, Sharon Towers is just outside the boundary. How do we start to connect those folks or other folks that are just beyond even more fully into the program?
Appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Last question, Commissioner Blumenthal.
Thank you, Adam. Only question on my end is as far as a partner, how has it been for you to coordinate and work with Freebie on this?
They've been great. Part of the reason we looked at a number of firms, local and national, as our operating partner. One of the things that attracted us to Freebie after testing all of these services in various places was their app includes some functionality that helps better connect the users to the businesses, which for us as an economic development organization, that piece of the puzzle was really important. So helping people plan a trip to shop or to dine or to experience, the assets that the neighborhood has. And so that was a real difference maker for us. We've been really pleased with the partnership and Freebie's willingness to try some of our crazy ideas. So overall, very happy with the partnership, and we're eager to mature that as we go
And they've helped facilitate a lot of the metrics that went into like this presentation.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So all of that is through a dashboard that they built, which facilitates, our ability to look at the numbers anytime.
Right.
Which was important to us.
And the reason I ask really is there are other neighborhoods, MSDs, parts of town that could use a partner like that.
Yeah.
And if your experience has been largely positive, then that's a recommendation that we can make. If
Yes.
it's been negative, then obviously then that's different.
And we would tell you if it was not positive.
Right.
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 That was part of the experiment, right? In year one, is to figure out, is this a partnership that's fruitful?
Right. And I may as like, for example, Community Crossroads, Crossroads, I guess, Corporation, it's in Greer Heights, and they've talked about micro transit, and this may or may not make sense, but I'll follow up with them. And if they'd like to speak with you for just a reference, I'll be happy to make that connection.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool beans. I'll sneak one more in. You talked about the golf tournament. Are we going to be having Skipper all the way down to Quail Hollow?
We will not have them all the way down to Quail Hollow.
Okay, just checking.
But I think what we know is obviously our hotels are full that week, and there are a lot of people who will be spending lots of time in South Park. And so our hope is that when you come and you get off the shuttle bus and it drops you in the parking lot at the mall, how does this tool help you more fully experience the neighborhood rather than just immediately either leaving town or going back to your hotel room?
Cool beans. All right. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it. Again, love your heat map. And we've got one more, and that is Justin Neville. He's going to talk to us about JUMP. And I know on the piece of paper in front of us it says jaunt, but unfortunately jaunt was jaunted on the end of the week, and so they're not going to be with us today. So.
Thank you.
Oh. To share this. Oh. There.
Thank you. Hey, folks, I am Justin Neville. Thanks very much for having me and asking me to be here. So JUMP is a microtransit provider. I'll give you a lot more details, but we are the scrappy, small, local startup side of the microtransit universe. Not a public transit agency, not a well-funded MSD. Just to be clear.
But there's hope for the future.
Just very briefly, a little bit about me. A longtime Charlotte resident. Went to West Charlotte High School, Piedmont Middle School, Irwin Avenue Elementary School. I've been in the tech startup world for a long time, and simply put, just kind of had a midlife crisis and said, this is not what I want to do with my life. I've got more to contribute in different places. And I started JUMP Transit, I guess a little over a year ago, and we launched in August of last year, so longer than anybody else you've heard from. And just in terms of the work you guys do with planning and supporting, communities, very much respect that. I was actually one of the founding board members of the Cherry Neighborhood Association when I lived in Cherry. I'm now a resident of NODA, used to live in Plaza Midwood, so I live in the service area for JUMP Transit. So a little bit about the service and just how it works. So we are app-based and have been from day one. We've created all of the technology in-house. We have a number of private business partners where we have signage like the flag you see on the left there, or anywhere you are in our service area, you can just visit wejump.in/CLT on your smartphone. And that pulls up our app where you can search for your destination, either type in an address or a place name. It auto geolocates where we're picking you up at. You can change that if you want. And then you can pick the number of adults and children. Pick your number of adults, children, hit get ticket, and it automatically requests the driver to come pick you up. So we provide that same point-to-point experience that the others do as well. In the app, we do have our live vehicle location, so you can see exactly how many vehicles are out there, where they are. We provide ETAs in real time, so you know exactly when you're going to get picked up. Our average wait time is just over 6 minutes. So I'll show you our service area. It's relatively small. But yeah, our average wait time is 6 minutes. And we accept all the latest payment things, Cash App, Google Pay, Google Wallet, and simple credit cards as well. Our fleet is 5 vehicles today, and they're all 100% electric. They're made by a company called GEM, G-E-M, and the model of the vehicle is an E6, but they're all electric, 5 passengers, and very proud of the fact that all of our drivers are employees. They're not contractors like with an Uber or Lyft. And actually right now, all of them live within our service area. So we try very hard to create a real community environment, ask people how their day are going, make recommendations about the new place that opened up or their special at this restaurant and that kind of thing. So it's a very, very community-oriented service, and we've, really intentionally tried to hire employees that bring that spirit to every ride. Today, we are focused on weekends, so we run Friday from 4 to 11 p.m., Saturdays noon to 11 p.m., and Sundays from noon to 8 p.m. We do have intention to expand that out to, be a 7-day service, but this just was, kind of the highest demand time periods, so it was a good place to start. We've actually already increased our hours a little bit since we launched last August. Our service area. So we're really focused in on the kind of NODA and Plaza Midwood and surrounding neighborhoods and that kind of north and east area just outside of 277, including Belmont, actually. And the other neighborhoods that you see there. I don't know what the square miles is on that, but, maybe 3 or 4 miles in each direction, north, south, and east, west. Like I said, we do have fares. I think they are very reasonable. So our fares are per person, and they provide you our one-way fare, a trip between any 2 points within our service area. And that's $3 per person. We also have a day pass option. So for $7 per person, you get unlimited rides throughout our service area from whenever you purchase it all the way through to closing. So if you want to, do an errand in the early afternoon and then later on catch dinner and in a movie or something in the evening, you can use Jump to, do all of those things just for $7 for the day. We don't have any distance-based pricing, so our pricing is, flat rate for anywhere in the service area, and we don't have surge pricing unlike, traditional TNC like Uber or Lyft, which our riders are very happy about. We have lots of riders that say, we love your pricing and the consistency of the pricing. Tell us stories about, maybe paying $15 to get to a restaurant in their own neighborhood, and then it's double that getting back home, And we just wanted something simple, fair, sustainable, and not to take advantage of our literal neighbors in our community. We also have monthly memberships. So for residents of these areas or just more regular riders, starting at $19 a month for a multi-pack of 8 rides. And you can use those 8 rides, for yourself 8 different times, or you can bring friends with you. We call them flex rides. And then up at the $49 a month level, you get unlimited rides as a member, and you get to bring up to 8 guests as well. So we really wanted to create be a neighborhood amenity, right? So just a easy, flat monthly fee, and we can service a big chunk of your transportation needs in our service area. Next, I wanted to share just kind of our usage patterns. Like, how are people actually using this? What are they doing? So I mentioned before, our average wait time is around 6 minutes. The average ride duration is also 6 minutes. So these are relatively short, like Skipper. Our average length is probably around 1 mile. Our average number of passengers per ride request is 2. So even though the vehicles fit 5 on average, we're having people request rides for 2 people at a time. And then we do ride aggregation, which means if we have a ride from kind of one end of our service area to the other, and then we have another request at the same time from somebody going from the middle of the service area, kind of in the same direction, we'll aggregate those 2 rides together as long as there's room in the vehicle. And that happens about 15% of the time, which is great for us. And also, again, with that community aspect in mind, we've had a number of great conversations in the vehicles between strangers we've literally had people change their destination because of a conversation with somebody else. Hey, can you actually drop us off where they're going? We want to see that show as well. So yeah, it's a, very just fun community-oriented atmosphere in the vehicles. On the bottom here is our distribution of passengers per hour by by hour of the day. So you can see very much concentrated on kind of that Friday evening on the left-hand portion there, and then in the Saturday evening as well. So no surprise there, given our kind of weekend focus, that Friday and Saturday nights would be kind of the hot spots. But also importantly is kind of the long tail there of, all day Sunday from noon to 8, and then from noon to, 5 p.m. on Saturdays, where people are doing things like taking their kids on a play date to a neighbor's house, or going to the park, or picking up groceries. So we serve a real variety of needs for residents in the neighborhood and visitors as well. I love the idea of, park once, like the gentleman from Skipper mentioned, that we definitely have a good share of ridership that just don't want to move their car in NODA or in Plaza Midwood. And we enable them to not do that and not fight traffic and just get where they need to go. So glad you guys love heat maps, because here you go.
You get an A for the day, no matter what I said about anybody else. You're the one.
So yeah, this is a distribution of pickups on the left and drop-offs on the right. And clearly there's, focuses in on places you would expect, like on the left-hand edge there, the large circle is the Optimus Hall location. Not a surprise there. The intersection of Central Avenue and the Plaza, lots of density there. And then all up and down kind of the North Davidson Street corridor, North Davidson, 36th Street, having a lot of density as well. But again, what's interesting to me is kind of the long tail of distribution beyond those hotspots, right? Lots of pickups from individuals, homes, single family as well as multifamily, and parks and all kinds of stuff. And then finally, just some thoughts on kind of the planning impact of, JUMP, of course, specifically, but just microtransit in general that I thought would be useful to share. So the first one is in terms of public transit. I think microtransit and even private microtransit companies like ourselves are very complementary to the existing and hopefully new public transit infrastructure that we have. So our second most popular destination is actually 36th Street Station on the Blue Line. When there's a game uptown, we're busy shuttling people to and from the Blue Line. And I really see us as helping expand the service area, kind of the operational footprint of each one of those light rail stations. So the map on the left is the 10-minute walking radius of 36th Street Station Blue Line. On the right is the 10-minute driving service area from the same station, right? So obviously, microtransit service like us, where maybe people start on foot, they're not driving, there's not a place to park, we can really help expand the number of people that can access our existing transit infrastructure. We have a number of connections to, the Blue Line, to the Gold Line. We connect with 8 different CATS bus routes, as well as the Charlotte Amtrak station on North Tryon. Second is the impact on housing affordability, in the sense of, transit is a significant component of just the cost of living nowadays, right? I did some simple research. The average combination of car payment plus insurance costs is $917 a month in this country. And so, we're providing an option where you can, go car free, or maybe just not be car first, right? Where you pay $19 a month to be able to run your errands on the weekend, and get to the restaurants when you want to just go out and have fun, and not always go immediately to the car and, save a significant amount of money. We have a partnership with the local developer Spacecraft, who you all may be familiar with the joinery apartment complex that they have on Brevard Street. It was Charlotte's first apartment complex without on-site parking. And in the partnership we have with them, they are providing Jump memberships at no cost to all of the residents. So it's a really, I think, unique and great partnership with Spacecraft to be able to kind of introduce people to a car-free lifestyle and show them that it's actually much more convenient. You know, you have the blue line right there for longer haul needs, and you have Jump Transit to really get around and explore your community without having to, you know, fight for parking and pay Uber whatever rate they happen to be charging that day. I will say too, I don't think this is a one-off thing. We've talked with a number of other apartment communities, and in all, we're negotiating with a total of 2,500 developers that represent 2,500 apartment units just in our service area. So this will, I think, be a significant part of our business going forward. And then lastly, is sustainability. You know, we do have an all electric fleet. I think that's important. I think it's incumbent upon all of us, frankly, to you know, do what we can in this area. And really one thing that I think is important that we're trying to do is make sustainable choices easy, convenient, and affordable. So the average price of an EV today is over $55,000. The cost of a unlimited ride Jumper membership is $492 a year, $49 a month. And so it enables people to make those green choices, but just in a very easy, inexpensive, convenient, fun way, frankly. So yeah. Oh, sorry. And then last thought here, land use. I think we will be enabling, you know, well, we have a lot of interest from businesses who see that we can help them get more customers, right? And get more customers to them without just paving more of our neighborhoods, right? Without creating more parking. And I think it's this map on the right here is a map from 1935, the original Charlotte streetcar network. Roughly, this is our service area as well. And in my sort of view, you know, we went from some of the original suburban neighborhoods that were highly walkable, that had great, reliable public transit, that got you where you needed to go. We went on a very long experiment of trying to just pave our way out of growth or into growth. Frankly, killed a lot of pedestrians in the process, paved over and blighted a bunch of important neighborhoods in the process. And I kind of see us coming, you know, full circle back around to, again, enabling dense neighborhoods that are a combination of multifamily and single family that has great long haul transportation like the Blue Line, but also, you know, microtransit, as we call it today, but just reliable, neighborhood friendly transit around the community that's not car centric, supports local businesses, supports neighborhoods. And yeah, hopefully we are on the other side of that experiment and doing better nowadays. And we look forward to being a part of that. And thanks very much for your interest.
Thanks very much, Justin. Do we have any questions from anybody? I hope that we've gotten a load of information about things that are going on. It's very exciting to see what you are doing as a small, scrappy startup that is not well-funded like an MSD or a government agency. And although the government agency and the MSD are both doing some really interesting things. So excited to have everybody here. This was good. We're well-informed. Also excited, Rick, I don't know if you noticed, there was North Chantilly on that last map.
Yeah, I know. It kind of
Yeah, whatever. That's whatever. All right. Thank you very much, Justin. All right, everybody. We've got a couple of things left here in the meeting. You know, last month we didn't get to talk about what everybody does or did during the month. So we're going to talk about our, you know, activities and things that we did and going out and seeing the community and things of that nature. So we will begin to my right this time with Commissioner Stewart.
Nothing to report, Douglas.
Thank you. Commissioner Lansdell.
I've been trying to sit in on most of the, at least online meetings for the CRTPO and its technical coordinating committees. The one thing I will say is that tomorrow night, we're going to be wrapping up the 8-week the CLT Aviation Academy. And I must say, it's been an incredible privilege to be selected and to be a part of that program. The things that I've learned throughout this 8-week period, and it's about 3.5 hours every Wednesday night that's given there. It's been really amazing to see the importance of land use. It's integrated into our state's largest transportation hub and one of the world's largest transportation hubs. More importantly, seeing the impact on people that live, work, and utilize the facility day in and day out. And over this last week, it was really great to see the long-range transportation and facility plans for the airport and some of the things that we're going to be touching on for the Planning Commission for years to come as well is going to be part of that conversation. But just want to spend a little extra time to say how grateful I am for the opportunity to learn about this asset in the city of Charlotte. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Commissioner Seeley.
I've done a number of things. One of the most recent was helped organize a parking lot reform meeting yesterday with the Catawba River Keepers as part of CLT Urbanists, and done a couple other things since then, but always active, always doing things. So.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Shaw.
Nothing new to report.
We saw you on the Super Bowl, by the way, after you weren't here the last meeting. You were at the Super Bowl, that little dance you did. And the blue skirt was, that was awesome. Commissioner Russell.
Yes, thank you. Involved in a couple of rezonings in my area. And then I also have been providing some guidance to some area residents in the Dorada neighborhood. They're interested in turning a piece of city land into like one of the tree canopy protection zones. So just been kind of walking with them through that journey.
Awesome. Commissioner Winokur.
Variety of things. Just came back from San Antonio, Texas.
That's not in our state.
Tourist trap for the last 100 years or so, 200 years. Very interesting.
They have the Alamo in San Antonio? They have the Alamos in San Antonio.
It is.
Did
There's
you
no
do
basement there.
Did you do an Ozzy Osbourne on the Alamo?
No, I didn't do an Ozzy Osbourne on the Alamo.
Just checking.
But anyway, commensurate to Charlotte seems to suffer from the same problems, just too much asphalt. The Chantilly Neighborhood Association is going to have its quarterly meeting tomorrow at the Innovation Barn, 7 p.m. Come join us if you'd like. We'll have Chair of the Mecklenburg County Commission, Mark Jarrell. We'll have Senior Planning person at Park and Rec, Gwen Cook, as well as Lori, is it Reed or Duke? Reed? Sure. With Tim Porter from our last meeting hooked us up with her, and she'll come talk to us about what steps we can take in our neighborhood for tree canopy preservation. Very much looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you very much, sir. Commissioner Wilden.
Your favorite commissioner, right?
You are my favorite.
Just confirming. Yes, so I've been attending some legislative meetings through the American Planning Association for like various states. And there was one held on Friday with the Catawba River Keeper around parking reform legislation that is going through the state house right now that could have amazing impacts on Charlotte, just through the way that they're messaging it and like truly trying to get the information out about it.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Caprioli.
Yeah, you stole my catawaba.
Sorry.
It's okay. Somebody had to. I've been working a lot with stormwater issues, and then it occurred to me after our meeting last month with the tree canopy, we might have an underutilized tree canopy source. All forest barriers are stormwater barriers in Charlotte, but they all contain trees, and we can't cut down those trees, but they don't seem like they're part of the tree canopy. So I don't know if that's a pathway going forth to add to the tree canopy.
I would need to follow up with Tim Porter, on how, because there's different methodologies with tree canopy analysis and how we do them. So I might just need to clarify a little bit more exactly.
Right, yeah, I wasn't sure because I was working with the Catawba on how can we add these forest barriers to the tree canopy. So, and I know there's more to it than that.
Yeah, let's follow up. Maybe, yeah, let's follow up and talk through that because I want to make sure I track right on where you're going with it.
Yeah, and I could be totally off track, but thank you.
Commissioner Blumenthal.
Beyond the usual petitioner and land use attorney coffees and phone calls, which seem to be daily at this point, attended my first Charlotte Urbanist event with Clayton. That was actually very informative. That was a lot of fun. Have met with kind of both in a personal and a planning commission capacity, both the Matthews and the Lancaster planning departments, Lancaster County planning departments. Just kind of letting them know where we are, learning more about them, also focusing on project specific conversations. And then, yeah, kind of relevant to this, had a meeting with community, or is this Crossroads Development Corporation? I keep saying it wrong, but with Greer Heights, and I think it was interesting to see how some of these micro transit schemes, for lack of a better word, can be applied to other neighborhoods, other areas in Charlotte, and interested to see where that conversation goes.
Most excellent. Commissioner Gaston.
Commissioner, I've done a couple of things. One of the things, I've been meeting with a neighborhood in the North End who is having some challenges with some Enlivian properties and the tenants. So we've had meetings with Malcolm Graham and Dante Anderson, several, along with the leaders for Enlivian. And it looks like some results are coming up through, and the city as well. So that's been a good thing. That's what I've been doing. Thank you.
Cool beans. Commissioner Neely.
Nothing new to report.
Thank you. Commissioner Millen.
I went to the Charlotte Area Chamber meeting on the I-77 South Expansion Project, which was interesting to hear. It's pretty much a done deal. Though they should be in another couple of months coming out to the public for community input. A lot of concerns for me were around the expansion, how it's going to affect housing and the people that live in around Nations Ford Road, Arrowwood, and that, because they're going to have to affect some housing. And they said, well, we'll offer neighbors that it's going to affect their house. We'll offer money and hopefully get them into the same area they're already in. And I'm sitting there going, at the housing prices, that just isn't going to happen. But that's out there for us. Also went to it was a neighborhood code enforcement meeting, and they were talking about getting input on changing some code enforcement to go more to housing cases, so we don't end up with some of the housing problems we've had, that people have been put into just ungodly types of having to live in, and how we can, the city council can look to making some improvements there. So that was an interesting conversation. And city council, I went to a committee meeting last Monday in the housing and safety, and they were talking about that also, on how they would have to approach a lot of state regulations, but what we can do on the city level. So that's what I've done.
Thanks very much. I wasn't very busy last month. I did do a few things. There was a UDO advisory committee. There's things that are going to change with the UDO sometime soon. I'm not sure there's sometime soon, maybe kind of that sort of thing. As you guys know, we talked about this previously. There was that House Bill 382, and the planning department is carefully proceeding to not go astray of the law. Had virtual meetings with the folks on the east side. Charlotte East has their monthly kind of virtual call. Got on that. I'll be telling them what the Planning Commission's all about on their April call. Got to do the same thing with the folks up in Derrida. They have a monthly call as well. Guys, you know, I talked about loving heat maps and stuff. I went to the Home Builders Association of Charlotte's semi-annual Doodle-ma-blob, whatever they call it. And there were some charts there that were just mind blowing and lots, you know, you think every year you think, oh, we've set some kind of record with the number of people that move here. And apparently last year was just insane. It was the tallest stick on the chart. I'll just put it that way. And I got all those slides, and we'll be having folks from Home Builders come give us some information in May, but that's another story. Getting data happy, the last planning committee meeting, which was February 18th, we had Lori Thomas and Sydney Izakowski, if I remember pronouncing that correctly, come and talk to us about the Regional Data Trust. And I think everybody's been on the planning committee, and we know that planning committee meetings are not the longest meetings that we have around here. However, we had a very robust discussion about some of the data that was available, and therein lies an opportunity for the Planning Commission. The quality of life indicator that we've probably all used at some point in time, they are doing I'm going to use my term, refresh on it. And so they're looking for information and input. And I had a call with those folks. Oh God, was that last week? Was it last week, Terry, or was it 2 weeks ago? It was last week, yeah. But they're very interested in getting feedback from the Planning Commission. So what I'm wanting to try and arrange for us is, you guys know we have these meeting requirements, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, we're going to arrange some amount of time for all of us to give an interview and give some feedback. You know, I'd love to be able to have a little slider that you just pull back and forth and you could see how much development had occurred in a particular neighborhood. It would be great, right? You could look at the population, see how it changed. You could see how many commercial developments happened in this place or that place. We have the opportunity to suggest some of those things and perhaps get that visualized on the quality of life indicator. So I will be working with Candace and perhaps some other people. Look, she has that look on her face like, I'm not doing this, but we're going to try and work. We're going to try and work it all out so that we can all get to put our input into that as that process goes forward. And I think it'll be very useful to have us do that because they don't have as much spatial data as I think they would like to have, or I would like them to have. And one last thing, no, two last things. The bike community I'm tangential to, so there's a rezoning related to the stadium. And there's a little bit of confusion out there, help those folks get their confusion addressed. And also had a number of coffees with some folks who may be potential commissioners in the future. So that's mine. And now we're on to homework. And we will get to homework. So this is the part where I vamp and we talk about things. And we'll get to those things. It's, oh, that one, yeah. People and cars. Next slide. This is a wonderful report. If you have not read it or heard about it, it's from the North Carolina, I cannot remember, Office of Budget and Management, I think, or something like that. Yeah, that one. The next slide is the link, yeah. And I'll send this out to you guys. But I mean, it talks about how the folks here in the state of North Carolina, we're like the we're the 9th largest state. But by 2030, we're going to be the 7th largest. What the hell does that mean? Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, you know, guys, you know, I like talking to you about demographic data. It's wonderful stuff. So there's tons of stuff about North Carolina in there. And think about it this way. I think a few years ago I looked and it was 110,000 people moved to the state one year, but 40,000+ of those people moved to the Charlotte Metro MSA. So we're getting roughly 40% of the state or the new folks coming in is this folks here, or the folks that are here. But if you look at things like our population pyramid, where the number at the bottom with like the 0 to 5 and 5 to 10 and under 18 should be big and wide, ours is getting very narrow. So we're getting lots of new people, but we're not making new ones. So what does that mean? So going to be interesting. Next slide. You guys know, how many of you love the electric cars and the automated cars and think self-driving cars are a wonderful thing? Okay. All right. I have this story that I'm going to tell you guys. Does anybody in here remember the Haloid Corporation, or has heard the story of the Haloid Corporation?
Sounds like several.
Yeah. Well, anyway, here's the deal. The Haloid Corporation invented a process right after World War II that would allow you to make copies, and it was a very good process. But back in World War II, the way people made copies was they wrote on carbon paper. Okay, so the Haloid people come up with this process, and they decide to sell it to one of the biggest corporations in the world because they're going to make it great. Company named IBM. IBM said, no, we're not buying you, Haloid, because even if we captured all of the market for carbon paper, it wouldn't pay for the cost that you want for your company. So IBM did not buy Haloid. Haloid changed their name to Xerox. Xerox is a verb. Haloid is not a verb, nor is IBM. And I tell you that because we're all excited about these self-driving cars. Next slide. Stuff may go sideways with these self-driving cars. And I'm always mindful of this. And this is an article that just points out some of this stuff to you. So those are a couple of things to think about for homework for next time. Our next meeting's coming up. April, are we still on track to have affordable housing? Oh, yes. We're excited. Candace is the most wonderful person. She gets an A for the day. Obviously, as Monica mentioned, we have community area planning reports are going to be coming in later this month. We've got obviously mandatory referrals. Planning committee will have more with in depth with the community area plans. Here's our meetings for the next 2 months-ish. Or something like that. We don't have any holidays that are messing with dates or anything, so everybody should be the normal spring break, but nobody cares about spring. Are any of you in school? I did not think so. So we don't care about spring break at. Yes, ma'am.
On our calendars, it says that we're having a planning committee meeting on the 15th. So has it been moved to the 22nd? Like the one that I have is
the planning committee is. Are you?
I'll take my question offline. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, because there are a few months where we have meetings back to back for planning commission and planning committee. And on our calendar, we have the meeting on the 15th or on the 14th and the 15th.
Oh, because of the April 1st is on a Tuesday, so.
Yeah.
I do not remember us
I
moving
feel like
that.
we left it.
Yeah, because we
would have to take it back to executive
we
committee.
will clarify this off as an offline, but we'll clarify. But I thought we said at one point we were going to move it, and then we said no, let's not move it, and it's going to stay on the 15th. But
And just to note, I will not be here on the 14th, but Kathy will be here
yeah,
supporting.
it's not they don't love you, but they don't care about where you're.
Because the reason why I'm asking is because
I know.
I know.
the reason why I'm asking is because I know that I'm like very close to my limit. And so I'm going to be abroad and I base it off planning committee meetings. And so then I will have to not be.
You and I need to talk, and
So
we
y'all
need
can
to
be
address it before next. We need to address it before next Monday.
Yeah.
So we'll talk in a minute.
Let us take your place.
Okay. All right. Clayton?
Do our votes count on April 1st?
No, but I'm definitely right. No.
Yeah.
We're failing the first rezoning.
Okay.
It's happened before. Yeah. I don't know if Dave has that sense of humor. All right, everybody, do I have a motion for us to join this? Do we have one more thing? Or we're,
I think it should stay the 15th, so y'all can keep me around.
oh, okay. We're, okay, all right, good. All right, this is, what is on the screen is incorrect.
April 14th, 15th,
Yeah.
All right, cool. tax day.
Okay. All right, we're all good then.
Motion to adjourn, Wilden.
All right, thank you. That's been seconded. All right, everybody out. See you next month. Oh, God. You should go to tackle Dietrich over there and just make him give you some micro transit.